may I introduce him now properly, an internationally recognized physicist, inventor, and chemical and biomedical engineer with over 37 years of experience. He holds 33 national and international patents and patent pendings. He is a certified forensic investigator and served as a consultant to Lunar Outpost Commission and is also a member of 2 DARPA teams in evaluating JP8 production from algae. Yes, we have him in the studio today. And
I'm just old.
No, that's okay, but you're wise. And we need that wisdom imparted unto us, because I have never heard that analogy of 3 sodas a day being the equivalent of 3 beers to children.
Same thing. Glucose or table sugar, sucrose, for example, it's made up of a glucose molecule and a fructose molecule joined by an oxygen linkage. So every time you eat a tablespoon of table sugar, your pancreas has to break that apart.
Yeah.
The body only uses glucose. The free radical, the oxygen, becomes a free radical, is what puts stress in our pancreas, gives us fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver. And we're now seeing more and more children from age 8 to 15 with severe obesity and fatty liver disease.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing it.
That's an interesting take. I see that now that you've explained it, because it is the new epidemic, this fatty liver thing.
It's huge.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I
Go
think
ahead.
that has more to do with type 2 diabetes than a lot of people realize. Everybody's blaming it on sugar. Hey, man, we're not talking about processed sugar. I see a lot of people are told not to eat any fruit because of the sugar in fruit.
I have heard that
That's
too.
utterly ridiculous. No, there's
That's awful.
No, it has nothing to do with it. Very little to do with it. When somebody has, I've seen more people with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
If you just get them to eliminate all the processed food, that's all you have to do.
That's it.
There's a miraculous turnaround.
No doubt.
You can eat all this controversy about what's the best type of a lifestyle, whether you should be eating a ketogenic diet, a microbiotic diet, a vegan diet, a vegetarian diet, the Atkins diet, any kind of a diet. The human body has very specific anatomical design.
That's right.
It can adjust to what we do.
No doubt.
Everything is chemical and everything is action and reaction. That's why we need a scientist like Sam, because he can break it down into a microscience. But with the average person in public today, we have been indoctrinated into a healthcare system. It's all about the money.
Yes.
A lot of it is not true. I see it happen all the time. Sometimes I see people with chronic disease. I'm embarrassed. It's so simple to heal a person from chronic disease. It's embarrassing. You hit the nail right on the head. Water, people, they're drinking diet soda.
Yes, they are.
That's contributing to the endogenous toxins.
Yes.
Drink clean water. It's a solvent and a transport medium. It actually, as you said, lubricates your system to a degree, really in a roundabout way. But what it does, it breaks down endogenous toxins, sludge that's in our system, and removes it we urinate most of it out. But it also contributes to what we eliminate through our bowels.
Absolutely.
Through our bowels. Human body's an unbelievable biological organism. We are making ourselves sick beyond a shadow. I have no doubt about it now. And that's why I'm so excited by what Sam has here.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen anything like this, and I've only been doing this 60 years.
Ha!
And now what I've seen, what he has,
It's Freddy.
okay.
Freddy looks like 50 years old, you all. No exaggeration. He looks amazing. He's 90. We're going to get more at his story in just a moment. But I want to go back to what Sam was saying here about how the sugar is the problem and it's for profit.
It is for profit.
It's for...
Most of the health issues today are based around money, whether it's in treating the symptom or it's in the diet and the food we eat. So we have a serious issue, and everyone's aware of the health crisis that we're in. Prices just keep going up higher and higher. But there is a profit incentive in keeping people sick. And I think I'm going to change my name after this radio show. But
You're speaking my conscience. Go ahead.
my name's now Billy. But that's the reality of what we're living in today. And when we went through this program, that's what we found. We found the 4 free radicals that caused 67% of all human death. And we can now eliminate those. So we can now talk about prevention and
in a real way.
in a real way.
Tell us about the 4 free radicals.
There's 4 of them that we've identified: superoxide, singlet oxygen, hydrogen peroxide, and hydroxide. Those 4, we have to have. Our mitochondria generates those in metabolism. But we measure it with a test called a C-reactive protein test. And if that C-reactive protein test is greater than 1, then we have a problem. You're in either acute inflammatory stress, or if it's greater than 3, you're in a chronic inflammatory condition. And there's a very high probability that within the next 1 to 5 years, with a C-reactive protein greater than 3, you're going to present with an inflammatory disease. And that's going to be heart disease, cancer, Parkinson's, arthritis, diabetes.
Let me tell you something. If you haven't grabbed your Good Doctor notebook already, make sure that you do, because on the other side of this break, we're coming back with more from Mr. Sam Shepard and Mr. Freddy Bisci. Don't go away. I'm Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire on Sirius XM Urban View, Channel 1. Welcome back to Ask the Good Doctor on Sirius XM Urban View, Channel 126. I'm Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire, and we are here where talk empowers and becomes action. And as much as I enjoy my own music, my guests are enjoying the music as well today. I appreciate that. We love music here. Thank you. And we are going to pick up where we left off with Sam talking to us about the C-reactive protein. And I see a lot of blood work from people that have a number greater than 1, and they say their doctors don't say anything about it.
No, they don't have a clue as to what to do with it. But if you, what Fred was talking about earlier with diet, if your diet is proper, your body will pick up and maintain and correct any sort of inflammatory stress you may be coming under. It's when we do those stupid things like stay up late at night or drink too much alcohol, smoke cigarettes,
too many days in a row,
and too many days in a row where your body can't correct,
can't recover.
You can't get past it, and we began to see that now in the C-reactive protein test. The doctors are aware of the test. You can request it. I actually would be honored if everybody who listens to this goes to their doctor and says, please run a C-reactive protein.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's see where you are, because there's such a lag time between when you generate the symptoms of a disease and the disease actually presents.
Absolutely.
And nobody puts cause and effect together.
Listen. What we do, I think, the 3 of us collectively here, we operate on the side of prevention. So I am looking for things before they show up on a blood test.
Oh, absolutely.
And there are so many markers that can tell me something's wrong with you, and I don't need to look at blood work. And even if you bring me your blood work and it looks perfect by, Western standards, and I'm not bashing the medical community because I believe that we should work together. But, however, they're just not looking for what we're looking for. And it's important that they start to look for some of these signs, because they could catch a whole lot more. They could catch a whole lot, because especially for the person who comes and says, I know I don't feel right, but my blood work looks good, but I know something's wrong. Something's brewing, but my doctor can't tell me what. And that's how they end up in my office.
Last Thursday, a classic example, 42-year-old lady called me, and she says she was just in, she had a cough, and it went on for several weeks. She thought it was pneumonia. They went in, and her blood work was perfect. They did a chest X-ray, and they found 7 tumors, 3 on her brain, 1 in her lung, 1 in her breast, 1 in her colon. She had no symptoms. Blood work was perfect. And I asked her, I said, go run a C-reactive protein. Her C-reactive protein was 66. And they don't even run it as a standard of blood work.
Even if you ask for a full panel?
No.
Won't show up. You have to intentionally request it, because the doctors don't know what to do if you're in an inflammatory state. They don't have a pill to take, because it's what Fred was talking about. This didn't start just yesterday. It's not like a bacteria or a virus. This started years ago. And so how does a doctor fix something that started years ago and it's chronic? So what we did is we found that this lowers that C-reactive protein.
And we're going to talk about it, because first, let me say this. I am contacted all of the time about products. Try this, try that. And I have an intense vetting process that, a lot of times people don't even get to get my address because the questions that I ask you on the phone let me know, well, no, that's okay, I'll pass. But you answered all the right questions, Mr. Sam Shepard, which is how I got this product called Valasta and astaxanthin in my hand. And I love this product. Let me first start by telling the audience, what is Velasta? And I'm going to pass some around in the audience. The staff here. We're going to all try some, and you have to chase it with your water, okay? Here, start with the interns. Come on, pass it around.
Velasta is a product. In 2003, I got diagnosed with incurable bone cancer. And I had what's called polycythemia vera, a very rare form of bone cancer. And my blood would thicken. I was going to throw a blood clot to my brain, to my heart, or to my lung. The life expectancy was 97% chance probability of dying within 10 years. And that didn't set well with me. The only way they could keep me alive was to bleed me. I had to be bled every month. So I went on this escapade, and I found 5 animals that don't get cancer. The salmon, the pink flamingos, sharks, elephants, and naked mole rats. And I studied those 5 animals, and I found a common molecule that existed among those 5 animals, and it was astaxanthin. And I found out where astaxanthin came from. It came from an algae called Hematococcus pluvialis, and I promise there won't be a test, so you don't have to remember any of this. But so I began growing that algae and taking it. And my phlebotomies went from once a month at 4 milligrams, it went to once every 2 months. So I just kept increasing the dose. And I finally got to 100 milligrams a day and no more phlebotomies. And in 2015 was declared essentially cancer-free of polycythemia vera. So began to give it to family and friends that were stage 4.
I have a question. Where did you get the algae? I mean, did you go and deep dive for it because it's in
Texas A&M.
Okay.
That's where I got it from.
Okay.
There's a group of universities that keep cultures of those algae, and they keep them for posterity to do experiments with them. And I got the algae culture. It was $25, and I could grow it, and I became very good at growing it. So,
do you grow it in a vat, or do you grow it in a windowsill?
It's a funny. When I started out, I had the Walmart Intex blow-up pools.
You stop it.
Yep, true story. Covered it in plastic and began to grow it because it already had the bubbler, and it had a heater on it, so I could control temperature and I control the amount of CO2.
I'm raising my hand. You grew algae in a Walmart pool.
Yeah, I did.
Shut up.
And then we moved it up to very large-scale reactors. These are tens of acres.
Okay.
So now we're talking commercial type operations. And then when we stress the algae, we make the algae think that it's dying, that its pond is drying up, the salt content is increasing.
Yes.
And the algae gets stressed. And when it gets stressed, to relieve its stress, it produces astaxanthin.
Get out.
And we then extract the astaxanthin from the algae, and we would concentrate it. And I found that the astaxanthin that we would extract wasn't as effective. It wasn't the natural form that I was taking it in the biomass, in that you can buy astaxanthin in a bunch of places, but it's not as effective. So we spent probably 3 or 4 years trying to figure out how to get it back into, once we extracted it, back into the natural form. And we were able to produce that glucoside.
Oh, wow.
And then it began to take off. Arthritis went away in 3 days. These were people that were struggled with it for 20, 30 years. And it took me a long time. I was probably the worst skeptic. It took me a long time to figure out why it was working. And when I began to give it to family and friends, and their arthritis went away, their diabetes went away, their type 2 diabetes. It doesn't affect type 1, but it does get people off of metformin and off of their insulin.
Hallelujah. I have a question. What did your doctors say when you turned up cancer-free?
They ask a lot of questions. My family doctor was elated. He still is he's actually using the product, which is really a game changer. He understood it from the very beginning as to why it was working. We now have oncologists recommending our protocol, which is unheard of. So we're now in all 50 states and 5 countries.
Awesome. Wow. Now, Velasta is a natural immunotherapy. And what are some of the dangers of using immunotherapies that are not natural?
There's several of them. There was a push. Dr. James Allison, MD Anderson, just won the Nobel Peace Prize on understanding how a cancer cell protects itself against the immune system. And it's called a PD-L1. And this reacts with the end of the PD-L1 and turns it off, which is if you have a strong immune system, you can now attack it. Yeah. And it'll recognize it just like it recognizes a bacteria or a virus. The problem is when you take chemo or radiation, your immune system, your white blood count drops, your red blood count drops, and your immune system is really getting taxed at that point. So it's just a matter of time before your immune system can no longer protect your body. That's right. And that's the problem with cancer treatments today.
But Sam, don't they cause oxidative stress in themselves?
They do. That's the bullets. That's a good question, Fred. The chemo and the radiation themselves. Radiation, for example, cracks a water molecule and forms hydrogen peroxide, and it's the hydrogen peroxide that kills the cancer cell. Chemo drugs do the same thing. They create a huge number of these 4 free radicals. Those are the bullets going into the DNA to kill the cancer cell. So there's several different pathways. Some stop the BRCA1, BRCA2, or the PARP pathway to repairing DNA, but they're all free radical initiated. So when this astaxanthin absorbs all those free radicals and stops it, you have to have some oxidative stress for your mitochondria to work properly and standard metabolic processes, but you don't want it to get out of control. And when it gets out of control, you're in for a tough ride. And but what we found in our work through the Inflammatory Disease Research Foundation was that as we go up in age, about 40 or 42 in women and about 50 in men, our production of a natural antioxidant called glutathione begins to drop off. And at age 50, for example, that's when we start getting our age-onset diseases. It turns out that the Velasta is 22 times more potent than glutathione.
Wow.
So we have an external way of boosting that antioxidant protection above as our glutathione productions naturally decline.
And as a chemist and scientist, you make some incredible things about the astaxanthin. You say that astaxanthin is nature's strongest antioxidant and anti-inflammatory in existence.
Correct.
And astaxanthin is 1,000 times stronger anti-inflammatory than aspirin. And astaxanthin lowers blood sugar levels and lowers LDL cholesterol.
Correct.
Those are some incredible claims.
LDL cholesterol comes from fructose. Everyone thought that it came from eating too much animal fat and a whole bunch of reasons, and it might, but the primary source is from fructose, and fructose is not something that can be used by the human body. So what happens is the fructose from our sugar molecule goes into our body. A pancreas converts it. There's a very extensive pathway, but it eventually ends up as a triglyceride. And they used to call it the COPS disease because cops, when they go in for their blood work, always had high triglycerides. And it's because they ate too many donuts.
No doubt.
So they called it the COPS disease. And then what happens, the triglycerides are converted in the liver to LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol. So that's eventually what causes fatty liver and heart disease and all kinds of things.
Now, what about, I'm sorry, go ahead. What did you want to say, Freddie?
Absolutely. A lot of people today don't realize that they got fatty liver problems because they're not just, doctors are not looking in that direction.
They're not until it's a problem. That's the problem I have with the whole model in the first place. So speaking of prevention, how should one take Velasta for prevention? Because you mentioned all these anomalies here.
Right. The typical way that we're doing it now is we end up with it being optimized. So if someone's treating for arthritis you take your body weight, and we calculate exactly what your dose is at that point. And then you take it every day until your arthritis pain goes away.
Okay.
So that's sort of the rhyme. And then what happens, once your pain goes away, you cut the dose in half. And you start backing down until you find the point at which the pain comes back. And then you just go up a little. So we optimize based on that. And since there's no side effects, I had a gentleman call me and said, there's got to be some side effects. And I said, well, the only side effect is that you have a red stool.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. And then he said, there's got to be other side effects. I said, there are. I said, you probably won't get heart disease. You won't get arthritis. You won't get Parkinson's. Those are the other side effects to this.
So I love that you have created it in milk chocolate and in dark chocolate and, of course, in capsules. And I love how the milk chocolate makes me feel. When I take one, it feels like somebody blew air in me. And it's like I feel aerated inside. Tell me, what am I feeling?
There's a feeling, and Freddie and I have had the same discussion. We have hundreds of people that call up and say, I'm thinking more clearly. It's like a fog is lifted. And it's not something that I can quantify. But
well, I think, Sam, if I could interrupt you, I think what's happening by reducing the overall inflammation, your body's becoming more biological efficient. Your mind's going to work better. Everything's going to work better because you're removing a lot of the oxidative stress and the inflammation. So, I mean, I'll put it this way: there's less friction.
Yes.
So everything is going to move much better on a cellular level. I have seen, when I first heard about this, I ignored it. I didn't pay no. God forgive me, I ignored it. And then I heard about somebody in the state of Washington had cancer, went into remission. See, I said, that's pretty amazing, but it's still kind of unbelievable. Then a friend of mine's a pastor in a church in Brooklyn told me about the worship leader in his church had stage 4 cancer. She started taking it, and 16 days later, she went back to Sloan Kettering, and she was in remission. So I said,
whoa,
Joe, I got to talk to this lady. So she got on the phone, and I didn't know what to expect. She was a very sharp lady. She knew everything about her disease. She knew quite a bit about how to take care of herself, not enough to keep her out of the position that she got herself into. And that was 100% true. In 16 days, she had a stage 4 cancer.
We have someone here right now with a testimonial.
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
But I wanna talk to Freddie here for just a minute. Well, first of all, we passed around the milk chocolate to everyone in the studio here. How was it, you all?
It was great.
It was good. Okay. They said it was great. It was good. Everybody gets a nod on that. Well, you get a nod on the taste. So there goes that fallacy that something that's good for you is nasty.
Oh,
and yeah. Oh, and IW wants the dark chocolate.
That's my favorite too. It's the only vice I have left. I'm old. I don't chase women. I don't drink much. So all I have is dark chocolate now.
Oh yeah, and astaxanthin.
And astaxanthin. That's right. That's it.
I love it. Freddie, tell us how you came. So you said you first ignored the product, but you were already a clinical nutritionist for 60 years, and you already had that career. So I'm sure you, like me, get a lot of people coming at you
all the time.
Yeah.
I'm actually. I get exposed to a tremendous amount of different products. I'm head of the Spartan Nutritional Program. They have 6 million followers, so they send me a lot of stuff hoping that they're going to sell it to 6 million people.
Okay.
And I just try to maintain integrity and a lot of stuff.
Right.
I just tell them this is not something I would give to somebody in my family. I don't want to, hurt anybody or say something negative about anybody.
Right.
So, I got on the phone with Sam and I listened to him, and I have to say I'm a pretty, I listen to people
skeptical.
I'm a critical guy. I'm scientifically based
yes.
also. So I liked exactly what he had to say, but I got a very good feeling about him personally.
Okay.
I sensed that he was, besides being, a brilliant scientist,
yes,
that he had a lot of integrity.
Okay.
So that's a game changer with me.
Yes.
Because I speak to a lot of people that are scientific.
Do you think that this product has helped to attribute to your longevity?
Yeah, I've been doing this for 60 years, but I think it's helping me.
Yes.
I continue.
It's the same principle.
Same principle.
It's another tool in your toolbox.
He did it with diet early on.
Well, I've been doing this a long time. I know how to avoid inflammation and everything. But listen, if I didn't think it had validity for me, I wouldn't be taking it.
Okay.
Because I'm at a point in my life, 90 years old, this is where my life has been one big experiment.
Mm-hmm.
This is where what happens to me if they carry me out the front door in a body bag tomorrow or 10, 15 years from now, I want to be taking this. I'm not kidding you. I'm serious. Whatever I do, and luckily I've been exposed to some of the most brilliant scientists in the world. European guys.
Yes.
From Europe. I studied
Yes.
under Europeans. That's why I like what Sam says, because he's kind of he's focusing on the science behind the human body.
Yes.
It's not an abstract science that's looking at specifically a snapshot of each disease.
Agreed.
We have to look at a video of the whole body, how it copes with disease. The body has the ability to cope with disease. It just needs an edge like this, even if they can't eat a good diet. Some people, there's a psychological component to hunger. Some people can't change their diet. They don't realize there's a major psychological component to hunger. We're like drug addicts.
Yeah.
We're eating the worst things even though they're making us sick. This is a game changer.
And I thank you for that, because one of the things that I want people to do is to hear more about all that you have to say about that in your book, Your Healthy Journey by Fred Bisci. He's the author of that book, and you can pick it up where?
Yes.
Wherever books
Oh, yeah,
are
you
sold?
can get it on Amazon, or
Amazon.
you can get it on the internet.
Okay, well, don't go away, because when we come back, it's testimony time. I'm Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire on Sirius XM Urban View, Channel 1.